Been like waiting for open mics at the Haha Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're paying $5 to go on stage. People are going to be like asleep in the audience, possibly. Like people, it's going to get ugly. People are going to be coming and going. Someone might get drunk and fall off the stage. That's where it's a bad situation.
Right.
And I'll be talking to someone and he's like, I'm debating whether or not I should join the Illuminati to help my career. I'm just like, it's not an option for you. That's not going to happen. You're like, would you do it? I'm like, well, I don't need to answer that because it'll never happen. No one's going to ask. All right, guys. Welcome back. Another episode of Ben the Menace with a guest. And I'm excited about this one. Osi's in the apartment today for the podcast. Let's give it up for Osi of a song called Life podcast. Yes, I did your podcast a while ago. It was fantastic. It's a great one. If you want to check out. Well, I mean, you've watched enough of this podcast if you're watching it now, or if this is your first one, welcome. But you know, Osi does a kind of podcasting that's like, I would say maybe a cut above the kind of podcast. I've been interviewing a lot of porn stars recently. Osi does it's very thoughtful. He interviews a lot of PhDs. He's a smart guy. He's an inquisitive guy, and it's fun to talk to and fun to listen to you talking to other people. I've listened to a bunch of it since we've done it. Yeah. Nice to have you here. We were just, I don't know if we want to go like too hard on this, but we were just talking about the existence of God.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean, to start off light, you know.
Yeah. I was saying before that like there are some podcasters who at the end of their podcast they might go like, let's get into something really deep, maybe like a spiritual topic, or do you believe in God? And today our plan is to reverse that completely.
Absolutely.
Let's start extremely heavy.
Yeah.
What happens when you die?
Yep. And we'll end with like whoever Emily Ratajkowski is like dating.
No, I
want to
end talking about Pete Davidson.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So from least important to most. All right. Well, on the topic of God, no, because I was just talking about like common sense questions I would ask if I were in the congregation of, especially like the mega church environments. Because I mean, and, you know, you said this would be a funny bit, but like, really, is there, you know, and I'm even for anyone listening, it's like, is there really a justification for a priest to have like cars in like the double digits? Like, like, does that make any sense?
If there's does in any rational world a priest owning a Maserati, does that make any sense? And the answer, of course, is no. It can, because I think the irony is that at least it doesn't matter what, like, because obviously there's different lessons in the Bible, but I think the one that comes up kind of, it's like one of the ones that's like just underlying in every lesson is like to some degree is like humility and like not, and you know, kind of there's like a minimalist vibe spread out throughout like the whole Bible, 100%. Old and New Testament, right? No, I mean, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah.
Like being pious, that's like a biblical word.
Yeah.
Right? The whole idea is basically, if God knew that Maseratis were going to exist, he would have said, hey, don't own a Maserati.
I mean, look, I've always had, because I'm trying to like, you know, because when I was saying, you was like, you know, ask yourself like, even why religion is a $1 billion industry.
Yes.
In the sense, like, because, you know, like maybe a lot of people don't know that, you know, some of these churches and organizations like hire the same people that like Walmart hires, like marketing teams and this and that. And I don't know, you just gotta ask yourself like anyone who's sitting on billions of dollars, like what are you doing with that? But churches are like, at least with, you know, God, you know how fucked up you have to be for me to defend Amazon right now? Like Amazon and Apple, it's like, all right, they're not sitting on cash. Like they're not liquid. Like that's stocks, but like churches are sitting on cash.
Liquid cash.
That's crazy.
Well, it's, I mean, this might be a little polarizing because there's a lot of religious people out there. But it's operating, most mega churches are operating like a crime business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me. Like I've like there's a great the Freakonomics guy, whoever I don't know his actual name off the top. You want to look that up? That would be helpful. The guy who wrote Freakonomics, he did a great TED talk on the economics of drug dealing. And he's based in Chicago, so he's like researching there's a lot of gangs in Chicago, researching the drug trade in Chicago. Stephen Levitt. Right. Okay. Levitt is the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah. Great talk, really interesting. And it's like a pyramid. You start at the bottom, and if you get to the top, if you survive and get to the top, you're a very rich man, but the likelihood of surviving is low, that sort of thing. Mega churches are pretty much the same, except no one dies.
Yeah. That's a good point.
There's no shootouts between mega churches.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I actually like that comparison because I think I was just reading a story about like a church in Arizona or some shit. They found out that like the cartel was laundering money through the church. Yeah, and it was like, of course.
Well, then, rescind what I just said, that you can die.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Nah, like anyone, I mean, that dude, but like it's a tax-free institution.
Right.
So like why everyone and their fucking mom is gonna try to launder money through a like if you can, especially what's really fucked up is that apparently like they target like low like maybe churches or businesses that are like on the way out. You can tell just from like looking outside, like, oh, they could use a repair on the roof or something. It's like, yeah, let me approach whoever handles their finances, and it's like, yeah, their accountant is like an 80-year-old who's like napping in an office or something, like and it's like, damn, like they need money, and yeah, we can just wash our money through. And dude, do you know there are thousands of churches that like desperately need money, desperately. So
this is a secondary. I mean, the scandal that most people think of when they think of churches is a pretty obvious one that we, for YouTube purposes, we don't need to say out loud. But this is another scandal.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, what would it's a criminal's absolute wet dream to have an institution where like their money is just totally untaxed and unmonitored.
You're right.
There's no report. Churches don't have to report the money, so it's like it doesn't. And what police station or whatever is gonna like hold up a church and investigate a church? You're gonna look like a fucking asshole. Like it especially if it's like even, I mean, and unfortunately in a lot of those situations, like the local police departments are already bought before even approaching the church.
Right.
So but anyway,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean that I don't know if the Freakonomics people have the balls to delve into that. I would love like an in-depth economic study on these churches.
Yeah. No, yeah,
it'd
man.
Be fascinating.
It would. I mean, because it's. I mean, though they're not taxed, like everybody is. I mean, when times are hard, money flows less. So like maybe those people that were donating $30-$40 every Sunday, maybe there's like, oh, the best I can do is 10. And like maybe that happens for a few years. Plus like people are becoming like less and less religious. So like there's just not a lot of money coming in. And then and that's assuming that like all the money is being managed like proper, like that there isn't someone already like shaving off of the top of what is like a very small fucking ice cream cone. So it's like, damn, like,
yeah.
But
and of course they are.
Yeah, no.
The likelihood is very high.
It's very high. I remember my mom, like she like I think,
Did you grow up religious?
I did. So I grew up, I was raised Catholic.
Got it.
And we would like go to Catholic church, and I remember my mom, she like pinched me because I like asked it out loud. I remember I'd ask her, I was like, man, every Sunday for at least like the past like 5 years, we've been hearing about this like broken air conditioning, like, and heating for like how I'm a kid, like, I'm like 8 years old I'm like probably 12 or 11 at this time, and I'm like every time I'm watching people throw in like checks, just like, yo, how is this AC system been like fucking broken for the past like 5 years? And it's like, it's probably not. You know, it's either not or like the money's just not like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you know, like it's
Yeah.
like so.
It was just like a low level scam.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be, you know,
Yeah.
and
that makes sense.
And so I don't know, man, but no, because this is all coming from, again, because I like, you know, remember this the movie where they exposed the priests and shit that were.
With Michael Keaton. That one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They were like writers.
Yep.
And
the journalists.
Yeah.
In Boston, I want to say.
Yes, yeah, I think it was Boston.
Yes.
And
we did everything but name the movie, which is fine.
Oh, yeah.
People know what movie it is.
Yeah. But like, yeah, no, man, it's an interesting. I think I'm less like, because I feel like people usually follow this with like a therefore that's why I think religion is this, or I think blah blah. I think it's like for me, it just all comes from a place of I think it's like a good study of humans and how ironically like something that's supposed to be like attract the best of us can somehow, the way the system is designed, actually is like attracting the worst of us.
That's
interesting. It's just very ironic. It's just a good story.
There's a lot of it's a good story that ends in a lot of people being swindled and crime enterprises. But it's a fascinating story, and it's true. When your goal is nothing but good, we're the goodest people in the world. Yeah. There's probably something very bad happening, right? Yes. And I think that's like. I've heard a lot of like kind of similar. I've heard of a lot of similar scandals. Like supposedly recycling is not real. It all just goes in the same place.
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing.
I was thinking there was like some type of like fucking like ring of like corrupt recycling or some shit going on. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. People are using. You know what you recycle? It all turns into weapons. No. But this is real, like, or it supposedly is real, which doesn't mean anything. But there's a chance that we think we're recycling, and then they go. So there's the bin of stuff you're recycling and saving the planet with, and then the bin that you're ruining the planet with. That's just garbage, and then the garbage people are like, oh, let's just dump it all in the same. It all goes in the same hole.
Oh yeah. So it's weird because I've always this is like one of those things I've heard my entire life that I've just never been bothered to just finally fucking Google and like find the answer, because I've heard people be like, no.
So you've researched this though?
No, I haven't. I haven't. But I've always heard people say. I've heard people say that.
I pick the story that I like and then I believe it. I spend very little time research this kind of thing. I'm like. First of all, am I going to find anything conclusive online? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't. There's so much information out there, and I like the idea that we're just numbskulls who think we're recycling, and then people freak out about it.
It's crazy because just off of like first thought, I would say whether or not that's true, whether or not like even if they recycled every last bit of shit.
Yeah,
that
effectively it turns into a new bottle
that
or
we
whatever.
Could recycle. We could like recycle.
Yeah.
Even if they were doing it, like the shit that we're doing is like it's like a fucking like it's such a small portion compared to like what corporations and like the military complex is doing. So even if they were recycling all our shit, it wouldn't actually be making a dent really. Like I think that one of the bigger kind of fucked up misconceptions is that like it's on. We've always heard like do your part. It's on the individual.
Yes,
but there's like a handful of very fucking power. Like it's
such a valid point.
Yeah.
Like as an individual, you can have an effect. You can do right by the planet. You can.
Yeah.
But relative to enormous corporations, what you do means nothing.
Yeah. Like it's like okay, like let me put my fucking like I don't know. Candy wrapper in the right bin, but you can test out like 100 missiles a day.
Yes. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's 100%. No, they're doing like missile launch tests in the middle of nowhere, just polluting. International pollution.
Yeah, and like multiply that times like so many countries.
Yes.
Like so, but like the man, you know what we're like 10 minutes in, and we'll have made an enemy of the U.S. military complex
and the church.
and the Catholic Church.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty wild podcast. It is called Ben the Menace, though. So I just hope there are so many people out there who are like, oh, this guy's insane already about me. I just hope that it doesn't rub off too much on you.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Is that
good.
my goal is that you're unscathed after this.
Yeah,
I'm already scathed.
No, you know what? You know what I enjoyed having you as a guest.
Yeah.
When I had you on the podcast is I think you relate in that a lot of there's always like a in conclusion or a therefore this is why I support this person or believe this thing.
Yeah.
But I think you're kind of with me where it's fun to just be curious and look at things and kind of leave it at that, because like I can't say like because of this thing that I'm seeing this is why I support this person and not. Like I just don't know.
100%. That is I based like clips don't really do it justice, and people watch podcasts looking like isolating certain things and not really paying attention to the rest. They don't read the cliff notes. They just kind of go, oh, I don't like that one thing that the person said, regardless of whether or not it's satire or you're obviously being sarcastic or something like that. But in reality, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
We just said it earlier. It's like God, no idea.
Yeah.
Is recycling fake? Certainly possible.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's not because I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of entertaining the possibility that any of these things are possible, when in reality I know nothing.
Yeah. No, I was just reading about yesterday, like this study that like they were looking behind the scenes of a lot of studies on like certain foods in America. Yeah. Like certain cereals and shit. And they'd be oh yeah, like the guys who did like studies on Fruit Loops, like 2 out of 3 of them work for General Mills, like people who make cereals. And it's just like, so, and again, like my point is like, I conclude there, you draw your conclusion. Because it's like, I don't know what to do about that. Yes. I don't know what other human being should be responsible for that. But it's like, you have to ask yourself, would someone who has a interest in passing this thing through the FDA or like making, whatever it is that they need to do to make money, would they have an interest to corrupt the results of a study? You ask yourself that question.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
and having like a little bit of an academic background, your background is in music, but still in academia.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of an academic background, from my experience, is very helpful. People love vilifying universities too, which seems a little insane to me. Like, it's one of the only, and there's issues, of course, at universities, but it's one of the only places that I'm aware of where the goal is a lack of bias.
Yeah.
At least in like the harder sciences.
Yeah.
The whole point is to be unbiased.
Yeah.
You go at the end of every study, they say, here's the limitations. Here's why, basically at the end of a study, no one realizes this. Everybody reads the abstract to a study. They don't read the whole thing generally.
Right.
At the end of the study, they go, here's why we're probably wrong.
Yeah.
Almost every study says that.
That's a good point.
And then journalists, and 2013 journalists are not journalists in 19, are not those journalists who found out that people were pedophiles. It's a different journalism. Yeah.
Actually, remind me of this later. I have a funny story about the movie The Post when I was watching it, but anyway. Don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The modern journalists, the most contemporary journalists, if they're telling you about a scientific finding, they're not reading the whole study. They're finding the clickbait aspect of the study and saying, this is conclusive.
Yeah.
What researchers at Johns Hopkins found this.
Yeah.
And if you ask the researcher, they'd be like, no, we didn't.
Yeah.
We studied that.
Yeah.
We didn't find anything. We need to continue to study this.
Yeah. I don't know because I think like I was having this conversation with someone else too. Like I think the term conspiracy theorists gets thrown around a bit too much, because I mean, okay, if I want to have a study on like figuring out if I am handsome, and the study is sponsored by me, Osi, like I'm probably gonna try to prove that, like, yes, I am. You know what I mean? Like it's like that wouldn't be a conspiracy. So like, why is it a conspiracy if like a company conducts a study that would like the result of that thing either removes or puts money in their pocket? Is it really a conspiracy to at least ask the question of if there's like any wrongdoing there? And it's just like, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, people will like try to be like, nah, man, that's a conspiracy. It's like,
Not a, it's a fact that there's an insane amount of bias that almost guarantees that the finding is not accurate.
yeah,
And those studies are done constantly in this country. I mean, the reason we have a food pyramid is because the FDA wanted to sell wheat.
yeah.
The reason the bottom of the pyramid is like, oh, you got to have 6 servings a day, because they're like, we got a lot of this fucking wheat on our hands.
Yeah.
And we need to sell that shit.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's because it's not, because I think language is very powerful. And because I think when you think conspiracy, I think a lot of times we're subconsciously thinking of like a group of people with like hoods in a cave,
Illuminati,
like, chanting some shit, or like, or just some like really sinister, like methodical, psychopathic planning that went into something to make something happen. But it's as simple as like, if they were going to do a study, like, for anyone who has a job, if they did a study on whether you're good at your job, and like you were the person conducting that study on yourself, and it's like if they find that you're not good at it, you lose money. They find that you are, maybe you even get a fucking promotion, right? So it's like just think about the incentive you would have to be corrupt in your own situation, and then just realize like I don't think like the corporations are like in there going like it's like, no, it's like, bro.
Aside from the pharmaceuticals.
Oh yeah.
I think they are. Yeah.
I actually. Yeah. I think
there's a lot of villain laughing.
Yes, I think if there's like a almost like Hollywood, like a almost like fairy tale level of evil.
Yeah.
If that is anywhere, yes, it's probably pharma.
Yeah,
like
Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
like scheming.
Yeah, like real
kill the Rolling Stones, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I mean they're or it's either that or like maybe we're also just underestimating how much of a bubble you can create for yourself. Like you can do terrible fucking things and create like a bubble that's somehow like where like in your head you're like the fucking messiah.
Yeah.
Because that one mini series that was about what was
the drug stuff?
Yeah, but it was Oxy or Percocet.
Yeah. I forget.
Painkillers.
Again, I think it was Michael Keaton. Again.
Yeah, Michael,
he's in everything.
You know what? This podcast, this is a Michael Keaton episode.
No.
Like,
for the thumbnail, we'll have a picture of Michael Keaton. He has found his way at least into 2 pieces of entertainment that outed industries.
Yeah.
He also did the McDonald's thing too, didn't he?
Yes.
He's in all these fucking. He's taking everybody down.
Yeah. No, man, but he was he did that one miniseries I was talking about.
Yeah. Could you look that up, Calvin? It's the drug. I can't think of the name of that.
It was like Dope Sick or something.
Dope Sick.
Like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the name.
You're good.
And it was.
I didn't see that. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I think the writers did a great job, like leaving it to you to decide if you believe. It was like the one guy in the family that runs this company, and it was like he was saying like, we need to get our drugs like approved in countries that wouldn't approve this, and we need to like spread it all over the world so that we can like finally remove pain from people. And like people would like bring him as like the show went on, like more and more people would be like, hey man, like this is like fucking people up. And he's like, nah man, we gotta keep like spreading this, meds. Like and throughout the show I was like, I genuinely cannot tell if this man is like so like believes his lie that much, or if he is actually like the embodiment of evil. Like, and I like that the writers like left that for you to decide if like he actually believes his own bullshit, because it was impossible to tell. And I feel like at that level, you probably meet people that are like consciously deciding to be like evil pieces of shit, and then people who actually just like are just masters at believing their own lies. It's fucked up, man.
True sociopaths, it's very hard to decipher if someone is a true sociopath or if they kind of mean well. I still kind of think that the girl who started that the blood company.
Theranos.
Yeah, the Theranos lady.
Yeah.
I still kind of think that she was buying herself time to see if she could figure out if it would work.
Yeah.
And then it just never worked.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, she's a villain. She never knew the answer. It's like, I kind of think it was just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
She wanted to have some time to figure it out.
Where she fucked up was like believing in yourself is cool, and I actually to some extent support like the kind of like not outright lying, but like I support taking a risk to double down on like the belief in yourself. But I think where she objectively fucked up, where like you can't really support her. It was that like while she was trying to buy time to make it work, there were people that were like out there living their lives based off of the results of a faulty machine. So I was just like, fuck, like, you know, like that's where believing yourself has to stop.
Yeah. No, it's like, I really believe in myself. And then this guy's like, wait, do I have AIDS? I don't know if I have AIDS. And she's like, no, but I believe you. I'm gonna figure it out if you have AIDS.
Like for real, like people were like walking around being like, "Oh, I'm cancer free," and like, no, you're not.
And the other way around too.
Yeah,
people
seriously,
got misinformation, and they thought they were gonna die imminently.
Yeah,
and it was just wrong.
Yeah, no, like that, and I feel like every character in a story, like whether, you know, a real story or fake, everyone comes to this like moment where like what you know someone is like, they've like passed a point of no return once like they start thinking in like the greater good terms. It's like, yeah, we got to do this awful evil shit for the greater good. Once someone starts saying greater good,
you're right.
They're gone.
Greater good, just the phrase greater good should be like as bad as most words that you're not allowed to say.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Think of the worst word. Greater good is worse than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime
like CUNT. In England, they can say, you know, greater good should be something where you're like, they say it in Australia.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
They can get away without there.
Seriously, no one ever, notice how like no one ever says like, yeah, you know, let's donate this sandwich to a homeless person.
For the greater good.
No, it's like, yeah, we got to like throw these babies off of a roof.
Yes.
For some greater good. It's like, what? We got to,
no, the Flaming Baby Project is for the greater good.
Seriously, man. Like, in that, I feel like that is, that's like once someone gets to that space, it's almost impossible to like reel them back into like whatever normal is. But
no, I think you're right.
Yeah, no, man. But you know, and you've got a background in psychology.
Yeah,
I guess like my pseudoscience brain, I always to understand, like for me, understanding corruption, I always use this like analogy of just like putting myself in a situation like if you were on the homecoming committee of your high school or some shit, and you know you had like power on like who becomes homecoming king and homecoming queen, or like who gets to draw the fucking designs and this and that. Yeah, right. It's like okay, imagine yourself in that position, and then like you have friends that you really like that like can do some of those tasks. It's like, oh, like you're finding yourself naturally rewarding people that you know, and you're not really doing like a democratic process of like getting those people. And like maybe there's someone that like you even dislike, and you have some type of power to like fuck their shit up too. And like I think of it on this scale of like being on like something low stakes, like I use homecoming committee because it's like it's one of those things where it's like it's low stakes, but you're given an experience to know how easily you can take advantage of like power.
Yeah, sure.
And so like when you think of your like, or if you've ever
that's an interesting analogy. A lot of this like pharmaceutical corruption, FDA, mega church stuff. It's basically just like a enormous scale homecoming.
Yep, they're just wearing pantsuits, and there's a lot of money. Yeah, and they're older. They've got degrees, but it's like but
they're just as like short-sighted and immature in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, I like and so I think. I don't know. I feel like it's always easier for me to understand corruption if I like put myself in those shoes, especially if you use something that's like smaller stakes. Because I think like the bigger it is, that's when like people start to get distracted by like the you know magnitude of it all. But it's just like just think of human nature on a basic level where you've had like the smallest little like inkling of power, and just think of the moments where you just mismanaged it. Yes. And then think of people who have a million times more of that, and like think of how easy it is for them to mismanage it. Like that 100%. That's it. That's basically the world. It's not always sinister, like, but you know, it's definitely, it's just human nature.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a related question. It's a little bit of a spin-off,
Yeah.
but that is interesting. And actually, in hindsight, I studied self-fulfilling prophecy, which is interesting. That was like my undergrad thesis, which they kind of led to grad school for me. I kind of wish, like, moving to LA, I have gotten to know and become fascinated with sociopaths. Living out here, you're just confronted by. I've done this as a little bit of a bit, and it works in front of very particular crowds because they have to like have a tiny bit of empathy.
Yeah.
But LA is the city full of, I think, the world's least educated sociopaths, like the dumbest sociopaths, because there's no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
People move here with barely a high school degree, and they're like, I'm going to take over.
Yeah. Oh, dude, but a sociopath without a skill set is dangerous.
And I think LA's full of them.
Yeah, that's a.
I think LA's because like in DC, there's tons of vicious, horrible people.
Yeah.
And in the pharmaceutical industry, of course.
Yeah.
But like, at least those people like kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah. Nah, because you're
If you have a law degree. At least you have a law degree.
Right. And you are 100% right, because there's something like really dangerous about somebody just saying like, I want to be big and I want to be important, and that's it. Like there's no direction, because like it just means that person is just willing to just fucking do all
anything.
Types of shit.
Anything.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, I've literally been like, this is years ago, but I've been like waiting for open mics at the Haha Cafe. So we're paying $5 to go on stage. People are going to be like asleep in the audience, possibly. Like people, it's going to get ugly. People are going to be coming and going. Someone might get drunk and fall off the stage. That's where it's a bad situation.
Right.
And I'll be talking to someone and he's like, I'm debating whether or not I should join the Illuminati to help my career. I'm just like, it's not an option for you. That's not going to happen. You're like, would you do it? I'm like, well, I don't need to answer that because it'll never happen.
Yeah.
No one's going to ask.
I mean, fuck, man. That's
People think
wild.
that they think that they're like, it's very common to think like, I am millimeters away from the highest level success.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in like, again, if you're going to be a doctor or something, you have to go to school. You have to do the residency. You got to there's a lot of steps that lead to you being an evil villain.
Yeah, seriously.
And here people think that there's like one step or no steps or anything could happen.
Yeah.
But sort of related, how old are you? You're in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm 26.
26, okay. So you're maybe not technically Gen Z, but you might have interacted with more.
Apparently, yeah. I was born 97. Apparently, 97
is the cutoff.
It's like the first year of Gen Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Being on the cusp of a generation is probably good. You're like a little more grounded. You have a little more self-awareness, I think, possibly than maybe people who are like living in the heart of Gen Z.
Yeah.
Millennials are nightmares too. I forget who said this, but someone was telling me that the millennial generation, if we want to like encapsulate millennials, I'm obviously a millennial. Lack of success,
bro. You know what? I think millennials had it worse than Gen Z right now.
Yeah.
No, really. And I because I'm trying to imagine being 26 back in like 07, right before like everything crashed.
Yes.
And like because like right now I think Gen Z and young people, like, everyone's like broke and shit and fucking lonely and this, but like we can like shit post on the internet.
Yes.
But like imagine all that shit with like no social media.
We had a housing crisis with no outlet.
Like no outlet. So you're literally just sitting home with your parents.
Yes.
Miserable.
My favorite thing. My favorite thing is to like watch stuff on Netflix, like whatever comes up that was before the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And just see the optimism and like the like blithe stupidity and like opulence. It's disgusting. There's like Entourage to me is like the perfect show for it. Nothing better represents the optimism pre-housing crisis than Entourage. It's a show about rich guys who don't do anything. Yeah. Guys who have money for no reason. And the question every episode, for the most part, is, will the cool guys get laid?
Yeah. That's literally it. That is.
There's no conflict.
Yeah.
Are we going to get the shoes today?
Right. Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
And you know what? That show, that's actually not it's actually like not like that far off, because there is kind of this thing in LA where, like, especially if you've ever had like a day of like hanging out with like people that are like very into the industry, there's this like weird thing where it just feels like everything is just like flowing and everyone's very like nice and shit. But I do like how the show did like a good job showing like, like when shit like hits the fan, like people just like fucking disappear, like all like, because it can a lot of times
it gets ugly quick.
Like, because it can feel like you're like the main character in a fucking musical, but like the second like maybe you're not working anymore or whatever, it's like just people are just like on a very sociopathic way, because like they'll smile at you and be like, if you run into them, they'll be like, hey, it's good to see you, and be like, oh no, you know, like, we just don't hang out anymore because you're just like not that guy anymore, you're not that guy anymore,
you're not gonna help me,
and bye, and like it's just very
superficial relationships.
No,
I've had that. I actually had that in New York. I was walking with two comics, and I was asking, I was like, where are you from? And I asked them where they're from. These people have known each other for years. And they were like, oh, I didn't know you were from Florida. And I'm like, oh, so you guys have just like a superficial relationship? You guys don't know each other at all. I know more about both of you within 5 minutes than you know about each other for 5 years.
People are weird, man.
Because you're just talking about stand-up, I'm assuming, or whatever. But the next show that you're going to do. It's so, like, why wouldn't you want to know where your friend is from? Or anything about your friend?
I always see like tweets too of like, a lot of times there'll be like girls or like women like going like, man, guys can be like friends with each other for 10 years and like not know like each other's like last name and shit. And I'm just like, I'll sit there and just be like, like, that's like not good. And like, hopefully that's like not the majority of dudes, but like, I think most guys would agree, like, that guy, like, we're probably like not great friends. Like,
well, the depth of the conversation, say you're hanging out with that person a lot, is it's such a shallow pool. What the hell are you gonna talk about?
No, it's weird. At this point in my life, if I because there's a I don't blame anybody for it, but I feel like if I've known you for a year and we've never genuinely asked and had a conversation about, like, a year is probably way too long. Probably like 6 months. So like, if 6 months I run into you a bunch of times, hang out a bunch of times, we've never really like discussed, or if I've like asked you like, how are you? And it's like never like a real answer. I don't, because some people it might just be like, maybe they're just uncomfortable. They just don't go there. But
I mean, I actually wanted to get into this when we will. But like, based on Gen Zs and millennials, the real answer, I don't know if you want to hear that answer. They're not doing good.
Seriously. No, you're absolutely
There's that
right,
too.
man.
Sometimes you don't want to unload too much on someone.
It's
how are you?
I have
and you're
a lot
like,
to say about that.
how's it going? And the guy in reality is like, I might have ruined my whole life.
See, but like I personally, and maybe that's just because like I'm always just curious about shit. But like, I'm the person that like actually like wants to hear the real answer. Like, I actually, because it's weird. I like the idea of, I feel like the best thing you can be for a person, basically almost any time, is like be a presence that allows them to like drop the mask and just be comfortable. Like, it's not your job to be to necessarily like extract anything specific from people, but just being open, just like having a presence where it's like, oh, well, if you do want to talk somewhere, you can go there if you want.
No, that's cool. And it's, I don't know the right way to do that without seeming like, I don't know the right way to tell someone that would actually allow them to open up. But that's reassuring as a friend.
No, and I think it only matters when you can like see clearly that something is like kind of off in somebody. But then there's just kind of like, oh, let's just like not go there or like pretend. But like after a certain while, when you've been friends with someone, it's like, yo, like,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's up?
No, that's cool. I mean, and also having this conversation, and I'm like, can Osi tell that my life's falling apart? No, just but there's always something you're thinking about, like they're deep in the subconscious. There's always like some concern. But what I wanted to get into, since you're you're on the cusp, but you're in the younger generation. My like at a cursory glance at that generation, it seems to me like there's a lot of concern with mental health. We're talking about pharmaceuticals and God and belief systems and stuff. There's a lot of concern with like like I just feel like it's a generation of people who are like, I don't feel good, and I'm gonna like really lean into that. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I'm taking a mental health day that maybe turns into a mental health month.
Yeah.
And that's for some, like, it's easy to justify doing that for whatever reason. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we do that too, but I think it's magnified. Like, the younger people are, the more common that is.
Yeah.
Like, Gen X probably didn't do much of that.
Yeah. So I think, wow, man.
Do you have an explanation? I'm just like, what's the immediate reaction to that? Do you have an explanation?
I do. No. Yeah. So I think specifically where what I see is that discussing mental health and having the courage to say that you're going through. So I think like that is what society needed and continues to need. I think where the debate really is how much understanding you can demand from society.
Yes.
Like how much of a break can society realistically give you before like your shit starts to like, you know, whether it affect your employer or affect your relationships. But there does, in my generation, there does seem to be like I'm going through something and you need to understand it and deal with it.
Yes. Everybody needs to reckon with my issue.
Yep. And look, all I can say, there's only really one, at least in my head, correct take is that like you just have to fuck around and find out who's actually going to deal with your shit and who won't.
Right.
There's no like you.
But on top of that, I think there's an aspect of people wanting to like differentiate themselves from the rest of the population and have like an issue, especially people who are like a little more privileged. They want to go like, it might be tough for me today because I have ADHD.
Yeah,
you know, it's gonna be a tough day.
Yeah,
I'm all over the place.
It's so this is really interesting. So I think two things that make me probably more on the conservative side of Gen Z, which is like not really hard to be on, but
no, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. You know, but one being that I grew up, I'm a first gen Nigerian American, grew up with like hard ass African parents
with like I think immigrant parents in general. That already is going to cut some of that, like, you know, for lack of a better word, like just how soft Gen Z can be.
Really, and I think I feel like growing up I realized like, oh, okay, you know what, there were moments growing up where like I needed a bit more compassion from the people around me, or like patience, and more importantly, like I needed that for myself. Yeah, because I was definitely like raised with like a, you know, whatever you're going through, you got to handle it, but you got to like keep going. Yeah, and like handle your business. I was raised with that firmly. Then also my background, being a classical musician, where like literally your mindset is that anything less than being the best is just kind of nonsense. Yeah. You know, those are like my two schools of thought that like pushes me to the extreme of this kind of like, like whatever I'm going through, I have to find a way to make things still work. Like I can never just really like stop and pause or ask the world to, I think the middle ground I've come to is I can ask that from my loved ones. I can ask that from like my close friends, but I guess where I felt like I've never really felt like I can ask people who don't know me or people I'm working with to really give a fuck. And not because they won't care personally, but just because like the world still has to keep moving. And I think like my generation, you know what, like I do have to take into account that like we see the extremes online. 100%. So I'm sure I have a lot of people in my generation that like identify with this, but you mostly see people who are like, you know, it's like the equivalent of like, hey, look, like I'm you know, sick of traffic, so like I'm just gonna need like every light I pass to just be like green. You know what I mean? Like that's the mindset that you see mostly online. But to add to this though, I think the worst thing to come from the worst aspect about my generation in terms of mental health is self-diagnosis.
Yes.
That easily.
We're talking about the pharmaceutical industry. They love that.
Yeah. No,
they're propagating the idea that people are like, oh, I must have something wrong with me.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about like, I think, because there's levels to it. I think there's something to be said. Obviously, you probably have the awareness to know if you're depressed. You probably have on a level where it's like, okay, this is not like, I'm not having like a bad day. It's been like a bad life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure people can detect that on their own. Or if you've just been like, I don't know, or if there's like just certain actions where it's just like, okay, like this is not like what most people do, whatever. But like I have friends where, and of course, like, cause I never want to challenge anyone's self-diagnosis, but like I have friends that have like diagnosed themselves with very specific shit like bipolar disorder too. And it's just like, yo, like that is,
probably leave that to a doctor. Yeah.
Probably. Like, I am sure that you're feeling something 100%.
Right.
But like to be that, like, I'm almost impressed by how bold they are to like really run with that. Be like, yeah, you know what? Like I put these symptoms together that I found on the internet. Like I'm like type 2 or bipolar disorder too. It's like, damn. Okay. You know, so because we're seeing that now where the most popular self-diagnosis is ADD. And the range goes from like, you know what, I'm very self-aware and I've seen, I've experienced symptoms, throughout my whole life where like, most people that can focus on this and that. But then I think that's kind of a reasonable mindset to be like, you know what, maybe I do have a focus issue. And then like people will be like, yeah, I can't focus 100% of the time on things I need to focus on. Therefore, I must have ADHD. It's like, no, like it's
yeah.
But that's the thing. I think the point is that like the point is that like a professional is somebody that would like give you that range of what is normal. But because there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, like I need meds because like I can't work 16 hours a day 100%. It's like, bro, I'm not sure if you're
no one should do that.
No,
100%.
Yeah, no. So, again, on this top of my generation,
yeah.
there's a lot of the internet's obviously there's beautiful things about it, but the self-diagnosis shit is crazy.
And there's a lot of money to be made in people wanting medication for their issue, whatever it is.
Yeah, because they bypassed all that shit. Like the telehealth shit.
Yep.
Call somebody up, be like, hey man, like I'm trying to like, I don't know, build a rocket to space and I can't focus. They're like, yeah, you need Adderall.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Oh, I know what'll help you take over the world.
Yeah.
Adderall. No, and I this is like probably a pretty polarizing opinion, but I do think ADD, like the need for Adderall is just drugs.
Yeah.
Like people just like, some people like being high.
Yeah.
And if you want Adderall and like Adderall, I do think on some level you just kind of like cocaine.
Yeah.
Like it sounds a little wild because that's a medication, but I think there's a chance that in like 20, 30 years we're gonna go, oh, some people just like cocaine.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, and like I have met. Like, it's funny, it's always easier to tell in like elementary school. Like I remember my friends that like truly, they was like, yeah, you need to take something. Like you're like off the fucking walls, you know? Yeah. But like now, especially, and maybe LA is different because LA in terms of drugs, like, I mean, I have seen every drug here used as a recreational drug. And it's like just very blatant.
Yeah.
So
and it goes the inverse too. It's like most drugs are used recreationally and most drugs are used therapeutically too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's like I'm microdosing heroin.
I mean, that's the thing. Like there's certain words that like, like that goes back to how language is powerful because you can make yourself feel like you're like a scientist doing experiments. You're just like, I'm just microdosing something.
Yeah,
just like,
hell yeah.
Do you really even know what that means? But
I have friends who are getting into kratom, and I'm just like, this seems pretty powerful.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like some like Superman villain shit.
Yeah.
What, Kratom?
Have you heard of this?
No, that.
So it's like an opioid, but it's plant based. So people think like, oh, it's better for you.
That's
It mimics it, and a lot of people are trying to get off of OxyContin. Will take and I'm sure that's a lot better for you on some level. It's probably not as long term deleterious, but like it's still a fucking drug.
yeah.
And if you I've taken little bits of it. I'm like, whoa, holy shit!
Damn, yeah.
I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And if people like this, they're into drugs.
Damn. Yeah. No, I've still in my life. I've only. I've done actually. I recently did shrooms for the first time like 6 months ago.
Okay.
And yeah, shrooms are great. But that was like coming from a place of like just being really curious. But every obviously I've been smoking weed forever. I've drank like everybody else, but like everything else. So like I know a lot of people are like, yeah, just don't do it because like I think they're bad. But honestly, I think my fear is that I'm gonna find out that like all these other drugs are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's why like I haven't tried them. It's just like nah, because it's like there's. It's like, I don't know. It's like, because to me, I think the way I'm a risk taker. So it's like, if I don't die doing something the first time, I will not be scared to do it like a million more times. So it's just like, I don't know, man. I may as well just stay away from the shit.
No, that's pretty smart.
You just gotta know who you are.
But I think your generation and probably mine too we're not afraid of that at all.
Yeah. No, it's to me, I think the part that I don't understand, and maybe it's because like again, like with my background, I've always maybe I've like respected even like the concept of an expert. I just respect what an expert is in any field.
Yes.
So I don't think I've ever had.
I think that's going away too.
Yeah, no, really, seriously, and I don't think I've ever had either. I mean, you can call it delusion or like just the absolute self-confidence to self-diagnose myself. Like because I just feel like it's a fucking big deal, and it goes beyond. I think you can have the self-awareness to know that there's something up, but to know like the degree, like what exactly,
especially with mental health stuff.
Yeah.
If it's a little more tangible, if it's like, oh, my finger's broken.
Yeah.
Who knows if you're right or not, but like you can see it.
Yeah.
Mental health, you have no idea.
Yeah. And to add to that point, I think what we're finding, or like what I've been hearing a lot, like in the last however many years, is like people be like, yeah, like the doctors like don't know it all. Like they're wrong a lot too. So like I may as well like diagnose myself. And like my logic is like, oh, well, like if anything, that should just go to show that like even the people who have spent time on this shit are wrong. So like that does not mean that like you're right.
Yes.
That just means that like we're so in the dark.
No, that's a brilliant point.
You
like,
know,
if the experts don't totally have a handle on it,
Yeah.
you will not be right. You do not get it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I'm the biggest skeptic of them all.
Dude, I've one of my biggest pet peeves, and like pseudo intellectual pet peeves, is people who want to talk quantum physics.
Oh.
And I'm just like, do you have any background in physics? Like it's like someone, it's literally someone who like has a undergrad degree in communications.
Oh yeah.
In an in-depth conversation with me about quantum physics, and I'm like, dude, you didn't even take anything past high school in physics.
Marvel did a number on some people, man.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, Marvel put out a movie. Christopher Nolan makes a movie every couple of years that involves quantum physics. And I heard that he was doing research for one of them, for one of the movies, maybe Tenet or maybe a similar movie. And he was like, yeah, I want them to go so fast. I want them to go faster than the speed of light. And he asked a physicist about that, and the physicist was like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
He was like, no, but how do we do that? And the guy was like, no, you can't do that. That could not happen.
That I can imagine Chris, because he seems like a genius, but I can also imagine
he is. He
like,
knows how to make a great movie.
It's like not like hearing the word no.
Yeah, no. He's like, yeah, but like scientifically, how? And the guy was like, everything you just said is not right.
Yeah.
You erase the word scientifically because it's not scientifically possible.
Yeah, dude.
And that's when you get into like that enthusiastic quantum physics conversation with someone, they're basically Christopher Nolaning the conversation because they're just making shit up.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to believe.
And that also podcasts, like as a podcast host, as someone who has brought on experts of all fucking fields, like you do not leave, like, because I listen to a podcast about, I don't know, like the latest findings in nutrition.
I think it's a fact.
Like you're supposed to leave a podcast knowing more, realizing that there's so much more left to learn. Not like actually feeling empowered to be like, well, yeah, like now
I know.
Yeah, now I'm a fucking like physics expert.
Yes.
But no, I mean yeah, no, but I mean, this goes back to what we're saying in terms of like the respect for that word expert, because I think a lot of people are like think like everything is like fast trackable.
Yeah.
The day that like we start getting like TikToks of people being like, yo, here's how you do like home like surgery for yourself. Holy shit.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, this is the TikTok era on some level. Yeah. And like there's videos of people doing massive pimple popping surgery. You shouldn't do that on your own.
Yeah, you really fucking shouldn't.
Yeah, man. Using like you shouldn't go directly from watching a TikTok to getting a scalpel out.
Yeah,
that shouldn't happen.
Seriously. Yeah. What percentage of those videos do you think starts off reminding people that they need to like disinfect whatever?
Almost never. All of that. Your own health, your own safety. Yeah. It's so rare. And like I in theory, I think cold plunges are probably great. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure there's some guy who's like jumped in some water that's too cold.
Seriously.
Frozen himself. It's not like there should be so many more warnings on especially the health related stuff.
That's also another thing. Like I think interviewing people also makes you realize that that like common sense is very, very uncommon. That like you if you feel like you're over communicating, you're probably expressing like everything that a person needs to know.
Yes.
Like because like a lot of times like maybe people in like a like maybe like I feel like military is a good example where like everything has to be like very regimented and communicated. At first, it probably feels like a lot because you're just used to people like allowing you to fill in the blanks.
Sure.
But then like if you've ever been a part of like a sophisticated system, you're like, damn, like nothing is left assumed. Like you never assume anything.
And we do not live in that system right now. Not at all. Social media is the opposite of that. And also no one has the attention span is going down on some level. There's a huge segment of the population that's like, why is this guy, what am I in high school class again? Why is this guy explaining all this shit? I just want to hear the nuts and the bolts. And if you only hear that stuff, you'll get a lot of stuff wrong.
Yeah. No, man, I was thinking about this as well. I was talking to my mom about this. I mean, just talk about life a lot. And I was telling her like at 26, I was like, I feel like the biggest intangible quality or characteristic that really makes a difference in people's lives is if whether you still lead with curiosity or not. Because I think you get to a certain point in adulthood where you are either constantly catching up or responding to something, or like, you know, you have this part of the game figured out and you're just no longer leaving that circle. But like, I feel like a lot of this, like, the shit we see on social media, to me, it's almost impressive how someone can see something and be like, okay, like I saw that, I believe it, now I'm going to like argue it, and just not have like the curiosity to either understand something on a deeper level or even want to like just prove themselves wrong. Cause I just feel like, man, like before, I don't know about you, but like before, like I'll bet someone like yourself has to do like a lot before you're like, okay, I definitely think this about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll jump to conclusions occasionally, but it's very rare that I feel 100% about anything.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. But I think that, I mean, because I think a lot of people think that it's coming from a place of just purely arrogance or like stupidity, like just not doing enough research. But I think research comes from being curious, and like that. I think that's what scares me honestly the most is as you get older, it gets harder to run into people that are still like that curious kid. You know, like you can't. and there's a big difference between like being like curious and like naive. Like you still want to be fucking curious though.
Yeah, sure. No, that childlike sense of wonder that people, that's put on a pedestal for a reason. I mean, curiosity is very, very good. And the 24-hour news cycle point of view is pretty much the opposite of that too.
Yeah.
This side's right because how could you ever know that?
Yeah.
And these are subjective issues too.
Yeah. No, I mean it's and like on the topic of Gen Z, because I think if you're a Gen Z American, I think one of the hardest things to come to grips to is like understanding what makes your world go round, in terms of like understanding like why, like, I mean, in this entire conversation, like there's a large answer as to like why neither of us have wondered since we've been talking, like if we think like a bomb is randomly going to drop in our house. And why have we not thought? Because shit like that doesn't happen in America.
Right.
And like, why is that? Like, you have to like answer those questions. And I think in my generation, it's, like
that would change podcasting a lot.
Oh yeah, no,
doing a podcast in Ukraine or something. Like,
oh yeah,
like this could end any moment.
Oh, dude, I had a Ukrainian student at USC. This professor, he brought some of his students to listen to the podcast, and she was there, and she shared her story of like like her knowing people that have had like bombs dropped on their town, on their houses, and I think as an American, I think our global dominance in terms of like, man, it's crazy how assumed our safety is. Like we know, because in a fucked up way, when you see these like school shootings and all these mass shootings, you also have to recognize the privilege that it is to say that like we are our own worst enemy, because there are countries where they are not their own worst enemy. They actually have like a legitimate.
They have an enemy.
Yeah, like they have a real enemy, like
100%.
on with like their troops on their ground and like running, like foreign bodies running their shit. And like I feel like Gen Z.
It's like if I could only get over my mortal enemy of ADHD.
Yeah. and not even just I think when we look at because I'm a liberal, I guess in the classic sense, I'm definitely like left leaning for sure, but I think my generation, and maybe every generation does. I want to say that like, when you watch like footage of the 70s, it seems like young people then were like very aware of like the machines that kept this whole thing running. But like, I feel like my generation isn't really like honest about like, oh, well, like, why are you and I like able to debate like, who uses this bathroom? Like, why do we have that privilege to do that? It's just because like we're not worried about somebody dropping a fucking bomb on our house.
100%.
So there's this is not that argument that's like, oh, therefore that's why you shouldn't worry about the little stuff. But the perfect world is realizing the good and bad that allows you to do that.
Yeah, there should be some built-in gratitude if you're just able to ask, do I have bipolar 2?
Right. Yeah, seriously.
Right? Yeah.
Seriously, I'm
grateful for my crippling bipolar 2. On some level, you kind of should be, because like there's a lot of places where you don't get to ask that.
Yeah, and the short, I guess version of everything I just said is that Gen Z is in a bubble.
Yeah.
But it's a very it's a bubble that allows you to not have to face the atrocities that your taxes funds, to allow you to like debate just objectively smaller shit. Like we're just not facing some of the circumstances that a lot of people around the world are. And I think what would bring us together as Americans is actually is like realizing like, oh, okay, like we're very lucky that like one of the problems in our country is that like we eat too much food. Yeah. That's like we're very fucking fortunate 100%. For that. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's Gen Z is I could write a very opinionated book on my I love my generation for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Like
I think a lot of it comes from a good place. A lot of the negatives come from a good place.
It does. It really comes from a good place. I do think there's some bad actors for sure. I think a lot of people that like represent certain things. It's like priests in a way. Like I feel like some of the most when we're talking about religion, like some of those priests are like they are maybe one person away. Maybe like if they had met some person, they'd be like a top level comic or a top level actor because they have that same amount of charisma, but they just like put it into being a priest. And like there's some of these guys in more of like the social justice world where it's just like, like you're just really charismatic and really convincing, and you're like, this is just like the outlet I'm gonna use for that, so and that's the toughest thing I think right now is figuring out, because like now we all have like our little cults that we follow. Some people are in the Ben Shapiro cult, some people are in the Joe Rogan cult, or like the Dylan Mulvaney cult. Who knows?
Yeah,
it's like
I don't even know who some of these guys are. I don't know Dylan Mulvaney.
Have you heard the?
I gotta look them up.
Like the whole Bud Light thing.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
pissing people off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But like it's man. My generation is we're very lucky and unlucky in a lot of ways, and I think we are hyper aware in the ways in which we are unlucky, and almost completely unaware in the ways that we are lucky.
That's a nice that's like a nice log line for Gen Z.
Yeah. So
little bit of gratitude wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. And I can, and again, like we've been saying, like that there's no conclusion to that. There's no like, oh, therefore that's why I think Gen Z is this or that.
Right.
That's just is what it is.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
that's pretty good. Well, we finish with a segment called Ben Changed My Life. Usually there's like a little thing that should be a thing down here.
Oh, okay.
It says Ben there should be a song playing. Yeah. Generally, it doesn't always happen. And Kelvin is going to ask us a question. It can be about pharmaceutical drugs. It can be about God. It could also be about dating. He asks a lot of dating questions. And you got anything, Kelvin? All right, yeah. It's a lot of stuff like where he's like, I've been talking to this girl and I haven't texted her back. Like, should I text her back? And
damn.
Here, let's. Here. All right, you want this one? Here, you don't have anything yet. Give it a second. But Kelvin will ask a question, and together, it's more important that you answer it, obviously. But the idea is together we're gonna help Kelvin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a little self-help ending to the podcast. At the moment, we're just gonna maybe we can just help Kelvin come up with a question. That would be good. You got anything? Okay. All right.
So you probably can't tell by looking at me, but my jaw's fractured right here because somebody tried to steal my car and I stopped them. And so now I just got news that I'm gonna have to have my wire, because I can't open my jaw like more than half an inch, so I have to get it wired shut for like 4 to 6 weeks. And any advice on because now I have to go on an all liquid diet for the next 4 to 6 weeks, which sucks because part of enjoying your food is like you get to taste the textures, the crunch, the different, I'm not gonna have that. It's gonna be all liquid. Like foods that shouldn't be liquefied are gonna be liquefied. How can you mentally stay there? Any advice? Have you done anything like that? Do you know anyone that's done anything like this? And any advice for me on that?
Damn. Okay. Well, first of all, I feel for you, man. Just because.
It's pretty insane. The story is pretty insane.
I know that's insane. And as a tuba player who I make my living with, and a podcast host, I make my living with my jaw. Yeah. So that's like a nightmare situation for me. I think in those injuries, a lot of times people, obviously nutrition takes a big hit. So you probably want to load up on protein shakes and just make sure you're not losing lean muscle mass.
That's pretty solid, Calvin.
Yeah. And then, make sure get your daily protein in, and then everything else is just like a bonus. You might you'll probably lose a little weight, but at least you won't look like fucking
I said this on the last episode.
Fucking mummy. You know?
Well, yeah, I was like, he's gonna by the end of this, he's gonna look like the machinist.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I mean I think that's actually solid, concrete advice. But to answer your question, have I ever had my jaw broken and it wired shut? No, the answer is no, Calvin. I don't have any full empathy, but yeah, it's like, you got it. You know, have you heard of I forget what it's called. There's a Noom or Hume or something like that. There's some drink that has like all the nutrients you could possibly want. Well, we can look it up afterwards.
Interesting.
I feel like just get a 3-month supply of whatever that is.
Like the athletic greens type.
It's kind of like that. I forget what it was popular years ago.
Okay, because I know there's ones that like have all the like vitamins and minerals you need, but all the nutrients. That's interesting.
It's probably like not everything you need.
Yeah.
But as far as a liquid diet goes, I think it's relatively cheap. You could just drink this thing every day. I'll find it for you later. I'll look it up, Calvin. We got time after the podcast. You don't have to find it this second, but like something like that's basically just like a multivitamin with some protein in it and some carbohydrates like that.
Yeah.
And hopefully some okay fat. Like that's probably what you're gonna have to do. And you know what the end result that we were just talking about, gratitude. Mm-hmm. Maybe when your jaw is not broken anymore and it's completely healed and you can open your mouth all the way and you can take a bite of an apple and you're like, oh, this is mealy, that kind of thing. You're going to be so grateful to eat a shitty apple.
Yeah.
You know how many people have been, especially Americans, they're eating an apple and they're like, what is this? What is the produce industry done to me?
Yeah.
So insulted that they ate a bad piece of fruit. You'll be so happy to eat some shitty apples. Yeah. So you'll be grateful to be able to taste the texture. Like, it's kind of a blessing. Like, have you ever fasted before? Occasionally I like doing like a longer fast, partially because it's good for you psychologically. It's interesting. There's like a spiritual aspect to that kind of thing. But also, after multiple days of not eating, the first thing you eat is like basically you're like, this is a lewd podcast. You're like, I never have to come again. Yeah. This is incredible.
Yeah, that's
this
true.
is the best feeling I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Oh, also that reminds me, you'll probably want to it's probably a good time to learn how to make like ramen broth.
Yes, that kind of thing too.
Add like a lot of fat to it.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. There's some good liquid shit out there. Bone broths, soups.
Yeah, do the protein shakes and then like the broths.
Yeah,
add some fat to it. You'll be good.
Get like a crock pot and make some or whatever, like a pressure cooker, and you can make some soups and stuff. There's stuff you can eat that's still good and nutritious.
Yeah. Yeah, and carbs, it's probably the least important.
Yeah,
of the three.
Totally. So, Kelvin's like a hard gainer. He's been trying to put on like a lot of, he was eating an absurd, when I first met him, he was like, I don't even know how many calories you're aiming for, but a lot.
Yeah.
And you probably won't be able to get away with that, but there's a lot there are a lot of things you can do. And again, maybe you'll feel like a newfound joy when you go back to food. Taking a break from anything is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. To food sabbatical.
Food sabbatical.
Yeah, totally. I don't think it's all bad. And it's like, okay, so you have to drink. That's not going to be fun for a few months. You have to only drink your food. And then you have a new jaw. Yeah. That'll be nice. To have a jaw
have
again.
Like a better one than your original one.
Bionic jaw. You'll be like Pac-Man. It'll be good. I think it'll be good for you.
Yeah, man. You can just like bite things open and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be like a goat by the end of it. You're just eating tin cans and living off of that.
You should honestly, if they can like throw in like a cosmetic element to it,
that's smart too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that filter on Instagram and TikTok where you have like the perfect jaw.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get that. Maybe you can get that one. Yeah. And get some Botox while you're at it. I can't wait to see you when this is all said and done. He just looks like a completely different person. The masculine Instagram filter. With your eyebrows are coming up, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yes, you'll be Giga Chad by the end of this.
I'm going to see you on like billboards everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'll be okay, Calvin. Osi, anything you want to plug?
Man, well, first of all, and I should have started off with this, but thank you very much for having me on here, man.
It's great having you on.
Yeah, no, you're my favorite person to just like fucking like it's just like a lucid
No, it's fun. We can go pretty deep, and it actually is like coherent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but man, seriously, thank you for this. And no, I mean my podcast that you mentioned earlier, a song called Life. You can listen to it really anywhere that you can stream anything. But
And it's a great podcast. Check it out.
thank you, man. I really appreciate that. But yeah, no, today was great, man. I love this.
It was fun. We'll do it again. Nice having you on.
I would love to.
Yeah, it was a blast. Calvin, everybody else. Give it up for Osi, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man.